I've done a thing. Let me explain. This is the Wansdyke. This is the Roman road that runs between the western Wansdyke and the eastern Wansdyke. These are accepted as, according to scientific consensus, as being the Wansdyke. This is Savernake Forest, and this is Inkpen. And between them, antiquarians of old conjectured that the Wansdyke continued along this line up to this ridge here. They conjectured that this route took in Walbury Camp on top of the ridge, and I'm conjecturing that that zone of control continued along what was known in the Anglo-Saxon charters as a via publica and a strata, that is, a properly built road, that this zone of control might have continued along here. These are all the Romano-British, Latin and Welsh names I could find on this map. As you can see, they are to the south of the screen. These are the honourable mentions that are either half English or half Welsh, or entirely Welsh, but I'm not entirely convinced that it wasn't just English people that decided to name their village after their local British river, but still nonetheless were properly English. So what do you think? You might be wondering what some of these place names are that are particularly Romano-British, British or Latin, particularly the ones that are along the line of control that I was mentioning. We have to the right the cleres. So that's Burgh clere, King's clere, High clere. The first element of those place names are English. I've just spotted while editing this the place name Great Pen Wood, which is on this map. I should have remembered that. Now, if pen is the second element of a place name, it's very often pen, as in sheep pen, English. But because it's the first element, Pen Wood, it's probably Pen, summit of a hill in Old Welsh. So we have another one here. But what's interesting about these place names is the fact that clere is not an English word at all. It's familiar to me because I live in that. I've lived in that area for a long time. But it's not an English word. And B, it's not the name of a river. So we have the continuity of an area of land that somebody probably in the prehistoric past called a clere, and the English have come along and split it up into three parts. I think it does. I disagree with him. I think it's self-evident that it is, and that's English. But the pen part, I think, is Welsh for hill. So I do believe there was a remnant of Romano-British culture. Not just culture, but civilization. But we don't really have a full understanding of what civilization means. It's not easy to sum up in. It's not the same as democracy, for example. You can have civilizations that have no democracy in them at all. What it seems to be, and it marks the Romano-British out from the Anglo-Saxon migrants that both violently and by the act of squatting and
filling a vacuum. It wasn't entirely negative. There was a power vacuum and the Anglo-Saxons wandered in. There wasn't anybody to stop them. But later on there was. It took 200 years to take over England, 200 years to defeat the Welsh. That was a proper resistance. There is a marked difference between the two cultures. One is a civilization, one has the remnants of civilization, and one doesn't. And I think civilization can sort of, my way of thinking about it is that if you have writing, if you have some sort of urban living, and there were things like monasteries or the remnants of cities anyway, if you have law and order, but above all public spending, if you have those things, then you can call yourself a civilization. Well, writing in the sense that to be able to transmit your civilization forward through the generations requires writing it down. And knowledge is lost, as Kenneth Clark put it. We got through barbarism by the skin of our teeth. And unfortunately the Anglo-Saxons, before about 700, 800 AD, were barbarous. So even though I speak English, I was born in England, my manners are English, I apologise for things I haven't done, I hold doors open for people, all these bizarre customs and manners I do. But the foundation of my culture doesn't come from my Englishness. It comes from, there are civilizing ideas that came from the early English, jury trials, decision-making assemblies, things like that. We gave those to the world in many ways. It was like, modern parliamentary democracy and jury trials is our gift, and the English language is our gift to the world. But we also gave gifts that weren't wanted: exploitation, slavery, murder, But anyway, apart from that, but the real civilizing influences come from the Mediterranean. They come from Aristotle. They come from Boetius. And Boetius was a Roman. He was a senator and a philosopher and writer and a virtuous pagan. And he was executed by, I think it was Alaric, I can't remember. Well, the Goths had taken over Italy, and he was part of the resistance against the Gothic invasion. So my sympathy is, even though I am English through and through, I'm happy in my skin, that my forebearers took this land, and it was entirely justified to resist them. And that resistance, the flag of that, the banner under which that resistance was made, was the banner of civilization.